This is a chopper that's close to completion. We've got the barrel shortened, milled down the sides here of the barrel to remove that lettering, but also it makes it a little bit lighter. You can see that the trigger guard has been narrowed, and then everything has been recontoured so it kind of matches up. Again, that's so you can flow onto that trigger smoothly. The butt has been cut down from a square butt to a round butt, and then we also stipple the back strap, so that gives you a little more grip control of that thing. We use what are called hideout stocks from Precision Gun Specialties. They're a plastic polymer kind of thing, heavy duty, but then we'll also eventually be stippling the stocks, so that provides you with more grip control. The frame has been melted down, smoothing out all the sharp edges, making it look a little bit better. This one did have a little bit of wear on it, so that improved the looks of it. The cylinder has had that slight bevel here done to it, so that makes it easier for holstering. So all of the external work is pretty much complete on this, and this pistol will be getting a Parkerized finish, so eventually we'll re-blast everything and give it a good Parkerizing finish. One of the major things that you want for a defensive revolver, if it's got an exposed hammer, is to bob that hammer spur off. All it's good for is getting caught on clothing, material and stuff, catching up and presenting a problem. And again, all of your revolver work for defensive use is going to be double action. So what we do is cut sort of a concave out of that hammer to give it that bob. A lot of times people will simply cut the spur off, and that makes it look kind of funny. So this is one of those things where I thought, oh man, I've got a great idea. I'm just going to give it a smooth contour there and then let it match up with the factory lines up here. And then I discovered that's how they actually kind of did it many years ago, so it wasn't anything new, but it does look cool. And then when you put it into the pistol, that is going to match the contour radius of the frame, so it gives it a nice blended look, which looks really good. On the trigger, a lot of your triggers will have serrations. They'll have sort of, even though it's radius, it's sort of a sharp edge here. So what we do is kind of recontour the trigger. We'll take all those serrations out. We'll give it a good smooth radius so that it fits the finger really well. And then you're even doing stuff like breaking the edge back here a little bit, because sometimes people's fingers, depending on hand size, pistol size, will sort of wrap around a little bit. So you want a nice radius on that. And then of course, once we get to tuning the internals, we're going to be working all these contact surfaces so that you get a good smooth trigger stroke without any hitches in it, and a nice clean crisp break when it does fire that shot. Okay, so we've got this pistol where it's ready to have an inch chopped off the barrel. What we're going to do is coat it with Dicam. This lets us make marks on it without actually scratching into the metal, so that we know where we're cutting. And then once that dries, we're going to take the caliper and we'll actually measure it out so that we get the cut where we want it to be. What we're looking for is a 3-inch barrel. So I set my measurement to a little over 3 because I want to give myself a little bit of wiggle room to be able to recrown the barrel and get everything true and straight there. So we're going to mark it off. This will allow us to make our marks and still be able to see what we're doing without actually scratching into the metal. And once I get those marks on there, I'm going to take a little bit of tape and tape up the barrel so that we don't scratch anything up. And that also gives me a good line to follow while I'm chopping the barrel off. Alright, so next we're going to narrow the trigger guard, and again it starts out by putting a bunch of die cam on here so we can make our marks and see our progress. The whole purpose of narrowing the trigger guard is to be able to get on the trigger just a little bit quicker, still have the trigger protected, but you want to have it contoured so your finger can slip on there easily and efficiently, and then get a good position with your finger on the trigger once it's inside the trigger guard. So now we're going to lay out our lines to recontour this trigger guard. I start by taking about 80 thousandths off the top side, or front side in this case. I'm going to scribe out my lines so that gives me the shape that I'm looking for. And I'm just following the original contour because eventually we want all of this to blend in nicely with the factory shape. Then I'm going to lay out my lines so that that starts diminishing as far as what we're cutting off, and eventually it's flowing back to the full width of the trigger guard in the rear portion of the guard. And then we're going to recontour it all the way back until about in this area it flows, widens out to the original width of the trigger guard. Okay, now we're actually going to start cutting metal. We're going to put it on this sander and cut it down. And now that we've got this area thinned down, we have to go back and reshape all of this so it matches the original factory contours of the frame. And now, are you still filming? So I blew that, didn't I? You can edit that out.
I can edit all that out, brother.